Hi, everyone. Do we have everyone here? Fantastic. Thanks, Sarah. Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to make it very short. I try. My name is Arefe. I'm leading the London chapter of Women of MENA in Technology. I've been with the organization for more than 6 years, nearly 7 years now. And I'm very happy to have you all here today. We're going to talk about a very nice, interesting, hot topic. A couple of announcements. One of our speakers had to drop very last minute, Noor Shaker. She's not with us today. She had some childcare commitments. But we have a fantastic lineup. And I'm also very excited to announce that our next event will be on 27th of June, hosted by Nationwide Building Society. And it's going to be on the topic of application and role of AI in cybersecurity. If you guys are interested in hosting us, partnering with us, come talk to me and my team, Zara, Sam, where are you? And Roshanak. After the event, we love to meet new people and we love new partnerships. So thank you very much. Enjoy the event.
Awesome. Just a very quick hello from me. So my name's Shadi. I work at IBM here. So I've been working with RFA for the past year. We connected online and I was just very kind of keen and excited to do something together. So very excited to be hosting everyone here, our first IBM hosted event with Women of MENA. So without further ado, I will pass to the panelists and the hosts.
All good? Hi, everyone. My name is Hussein, and I have the great privilege to be your moderator for today, which is the easiest. Questions, and they will be answering them. But I wanted to start by thanking IFA and the Women of MENA in Tech for bringing us together today. And I also wanted to ask Shadia and the IBM team for hosting us in this great venue. I'll be quick in my intro because I know I'm the only one keeping you from the discussion you actually came for. So as I said, my name is Hussein Sahyouni. I'm originally from Syria. I've been in the UK about 10 years. I come from a software engineering background, so I come from a techie background, but I've always been interested in the business side of tech. So how can you take tech and then apply it to real world problems in business and help companies be more efficient, more productive, that sort of thing. And that's what led me into consulting. So I've been in consulting for 9 years now, first at EY and then for 5 years now at Baringa. And as many consultants that I'm sure in the room know, our privilege as consultants that we get to actually kind of play around with those shiny toys, but in a real world context. Like we could be at the forefront, working with the clients, but actually be at the cutting edge, which is something I very much treasure because that's what I've been doing. So in those 9 years, my work has always been in the automation and in the AI space. And my role is usually about leading the design and delivery of AI solutions, usually in an automation context. So how do we make operations more efficient and better by using this technology? And I've been on this journey that I'm sure everyone here has been on, where AI started as this cool but niche technology that a few people knew about it and how it worked. It was kind of in the background, vaguely there, but only understood by techie people. So about 2 years ago when ChatGPT exploded into the mainstream, and now everyone knows about AI. It's part of everybody's day-to-day life now. But what that opened is that idea in terms of, we have this really cool and powerful technology. How do we actually control it? How do we make sure that we get the benefits out of it, but at the same time, because it's so powerful, implementing it responsibly, making sure that we're following certain standards and ethics when we're delivering it. And that's what we're all here to talk about. And let me tell you, we've got the perfect panel to be talking about that topic without building it too much, because we're going to get there. It's just the variation in terms of you guys come from different backgrounds. We have coverage from government to academia to corporate world to creative industry. So it's going to be, I'm sure, an amazing discussion. Just to take you through the order of business, now we're going to start with some intros from the panel. Just tell us about themselves and their experience. And then we're going to go deep dive into some specific questions that are about responsible AI specifically. And then hopefully we're going to have some time to take some questions from you, from the audience. And then I think we've got an hour more together where we get to mingle and just have casual chats together. So without further ado, let's get started. As I said, I'll start with kind of just an introduction from everyone on the panel, but also because the field of AI is so large and varied, if you can tell our audience, how does AI come to your day-to-day job? How do you work with it? Let's start with you, Mahtab.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. So my name is Mahtab. I am an engineer and a product manager by training. I did start with a tech background, and then I moved into product management. And at the same time, I also did a study in music and music technology. And that was, for me, the first time I actually started using neural networks as part of my master's research, which is now about 10 years ago. And at the time, as Hussein mentioned, it was still very niche. And what we were using it for was, as part of our research, we were looking into algorithmic composition. So you could compose music, electronic music, by writing code. And you can even basically tell an instrument or a software, I want my performer to do these things, and I want these kinds of sounds. Can you just map the two things together? And you could give that to a neural network, and it would define the logic for you. And so that was my introduction. And I found it fascinating, because all of a sudden, you don't have to know how to play an instrument or how to write music. And you could still create all these different sounds and all these different patterns by writing some lines of code. And then that brought me into working for a few music technology startups. And recently, I joined a company that's not in music, but is in film. And we are working on basically using generative AI for film editing and visual effects. And we're particularly focusing on two areas that are translation. So visual translation, which is you can dub a movie from one language to the other, and the image goes along with the voice. So there's no longer this, the thing where the audio goes, and then 5 seconds later, the lips are moving, and it creates a complete disconnect for the audience. And that's what I'm working on now. And my most recent project, which ties me to this event, is we know that these tools are very powerful, but we also know that there is a lot of controversy around it in terms of not just the ethical use of the tool itself, but in terms of who gets creative control. What happens to the identity of an artist? What happens to the identity of an editor, a producer, all of the people who are involved in making this happen in the first place? And so I think there is a vital role to be played into how do we use this technology, like any other technology, to the best interests of the creative people who are behind it.
Hello, hi everyone. I'm Ebru Binboga. I'm the director for IBM's Data and AI business for United Kingdom and Ireland. First of all, a big welcome. Welcome to IBM. Different from the other panelists today. I'm just thinking myself as the host here, as this building is my home and the place that I
come to almost 4 or 5 days a week. So welcome, and thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us and to just listen to us today. So a little bit of my background that might resonate with some of the people here. Originally, I'm from Turkey, and I have been with IBM for 17 years now, but I have been living in the UK almost for the last 3 years only. Along my journey of 17 years in IBM, I have worked in different geographies. I lived in different countries. So I studied in Turkey. I grew up in Turkey. But then after I finished, I got my Bachelor of Science. For my postgraduate studies, I moved to Spain. And there, while I was doing my master's degree, I joined IBM just as an intern at that moment. And the reason why I had joined IBM was basically the free lunch. That was really very attractive. It's not a joke, not a joke. Definitely. The best free lunch in town was at the IBM venue in Madrid. After working there with the Mediterranean countries in general, the Southern European countries, I moved out of Spain and I started covering Central Eastern Europe markets. So from Russia to Czech Republic, that area was within my remit in terms of business development in the software side of the house. And later, after that, I moved back to my own country, Turkey. I ran a business unit in Turkey for 1.5 years. And after that, I moved to Dubai to lead a business unit for which was called Boston Customer Engagement at that time, more on the commerce and marketing software. So I lived in Dubai for 4 years, covering Middle East and Africa region. And then I moved back to Spain, Madrid, to take another role in software leadership for Europe this time. And after my role in Europe, I had the opportunity to take a worldwide role to lead industries for a brand called Sustainability Today. And after that, finally, I came to UK, leading data, AI, and business automation brands for this market. So as you can see, I have a background which covers different territories, but that never changed my origin, which is Turkey, which is part of MENA. Therefore, I'm really excited and very happy to be part of this panel today. Thank you.
Before we move to Sana, of all the places that you've been to, Ebru, which is the best food? I think it's a very important question that we need to get out of the way. It's okay to not say the UK.
Tricky. If I say UK, will you
It's
believe?
okay. It's okay if you don't say
Nobody. If you say UK, nobody will believe you, and that's okay. You should go with that.
Yeah.
If you say Turkey, we might think you're biased.
Yeah. So if I say Turkey, I'll be biased. If I say UK, this will be totally unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell the truth, which is Spain. I like tapas.
Acceptable. Go for it, son.
It's hard to follow that. So my name is Khareghani. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm glad to be part of the MENA group. I have been in tech and business for about 25 years. I have a very good skincare regime. I started off as a software engineer. So I worked in startups and in big tech corporates. I did an MBA at MIT. I did consulting for about 7 years, so management consulting in New York, Boston, and somebody's lost.
AI at work.
Yeah, indeed. With it's the Russians or the Chinese. So with the management consultancy, I worked all over the world with kind of advising big corporates, Fortune 100 companies on various things that they were doing. Worked with a lot of governments as well. I also lived in the Middle East for 2 years in Abu Dhabi, working for the government there. I then moved to London, and I've been here since 2007. And in that time, I have spent 2 stints in government. The first stint was at Government Digital Service, helping set up Government Digital Service, so helping build gov.uk, take our services online, but most prominently, take government tech spending from 1.2 billion annually to about 500 million within the first 6 months, and it now sits around 250 million, which is a much more reasonable place for tech spending to be by government. I then took a bit of time off, took sabbatical, which I highly recommend in your careers if you get a chance to do that, and then came back to government, this was in back end of 2017, where the conversation had completely switched from data and digital to AI. So January of 2017, all of the world leaders were in Geneva, as they do. They go to Davos every year, and they spend a lot of time drinking and chatting. And at this one, they talked about the 4th Industrial Revolution, which was about AI. And they all came away from it thinking they had missed the boat and really needed to spend a lot of money and get some AI strategies out there. And that's what they did. So the US got theirs out first under Obama. And then straight after that was kind of Canada and the UK, and then France and so on. So at that time, I came back into government and threw my hat into the ring to come and help set up an office for or a central focal point for AI. And I managed to be in the right place at the right time and was chosen to set up what then became the Office for Artificial Intelligence here in the UK. We were the first country to set one up. And straight after us, the UAE appointed a Minister of AI, who I met, Minister Al-Olama. But he didn't have an office for AI, I did. And so I feel like I won. So I spent about 5 years working there, setting up, met lots of interesting people, some of whom are sitting in the audience today. Over that 5 years, I built a team to help deliver government policy on AI. And we delivered the National AI Strategy for the UK, and we wrote the AI white paper on regulation and governance. Since then, I stepped down about 2 years ago. And since then, I have worked as a chief strategy officer in an AI first company. And most recently, I am a professor of practice in AI at King's College London, just over the river. Also, they're on this side of the river too. And I am part of the executive management team for the largest government grant on responsible AI, which was something we set up when I was in government, which was we give out money in the wrong way. We need to do it using experts. And so that is what government now does in the UK research and innovation. They give out chunks of money to a consortium of experts to hand that back out into the ecosystem. And that's what the Responsible AI UK program does. Very happy to go into more detail throughout. But yeah, my work now spans advising on policy and governance. Yeah, it's speaking at various fora on things like this.
Great, thank you, Sana. I think my 2 takeaways from that stellar career is that we have to thank you for a much smoother passport process. I think that's definitely sounds of it. And then a lot of saving taxpayer money in that order of importance. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, you go fewer times. You need to go and speak to someone, although there's a lot of that happening still in the background.
Yeah, at least we don't have to know about it.
Yes.
So thank you for that.
Not directly me. Yes, I'll take credit. I'll take credit for it. Yeah, I'll take credit.
Yeah, I guess if anyone in the room can, you can. Yeah, brilliant. So I hope the audience now know our great panel just a little bit better. Now we get into kind of the meat of the session, of the discussion. And we're going to start with the topic of responsible AI. And Ebru, you get, as a host, you get home advantage and you get the first question.
Pleasure.
You're welcome. My question to you is, why is it important to implement AI responsibly? And what are usually the challenges to that?
Okay. So before touching the responsible AI, maybe it's much better to give a little bit my perspective in terms of where we stand when it comes to implementing AI in general in this market or across the globe. So there's huge hype around AI, around GenAI today, right? Almost no one, I mean, unless whoever is interacting with any digital channel would know what AI is, or at least would have heard about it, AI or GenAI. So as this hype is going on, also there is huge tendency at corporate level, at enterprises, to implement AI. But what's the mentality? In general, still, what we observe is that, okay, let's run our standard processes, let's do all of our data operations as is, and let's add some AI into that so that I can get a promotion, or I can get a note from the stakeholders or from my boss. I call this as plus AI mentality. The way that we look at it and the way that we discuss it and we recommend to the enterprises is having AI first mentality. So if you are starting to put a project in place, start it thinking about it AI and how you can run it AI since day one, starting from day one. So AI first mentality is there, and there are already enterprises who have started that. The first kind of enterprises that I have just mentioned, the ones that have the plus AI mentality, will not survive next decade. The ones who are thinking about AI first into their business strategy will survive, but will they be the winners? Definitely not. The ones who will win will be the ones who have this AI strategy, which is surrounded with two main ideas. How do I train my people? Make it part of my culture, not only for IT, but also for the business users. And second, how do I put this into production when I have a guarded model that is supported with milestones on ethic, bias, and trust? These are the organizations, these are the AI first mentality organizations who are going to be the winners of the next decade. And why is it that important? So this is just to give you the view of the landscape. And why is it so important to have this guarded model, which has the priority of ethic, bias, and trust in it? I will start with very simple examples, daily examples, not even an enterprise level examples. Open source models. When you write a prompt such as, just create me the picture of an Oxford professor. Do you know what the outcome is?
A man.
On a sorry?
A white male in his 30s.
Exactly. That's what's happening. So we are not talking about any diverse element. Yeah. I have goosebumps now, but I just want to keep talking. This, yeah. Yeah, that was beautiful.
The voice of God.
I want to take credit here. I didn't stop. I managed to keep talking despite of what happened. Okay. So there is no element in it, in the answer, such as, first of all, diversity element. Where are we? Where are women there? Where are women of MENA? Forget about the other elements, right? It should be a white male, full stop. So this is where the responsibility comes, right? The responsibility comes. So very simple example. Let me, another one, for example, before I move on to corporate world example. The models. Some models, when you type the address, give me the address of, just tell me the name of one of your favorite singer or the actress. Rihanna, okay. What's the home address of Rihanna? when you ask this question, and we have tried it across so many different AI solutions, and you can also try it, maybe with ChatGPT, maybe with other tools. There are various tools available, not for enterprises to use, but for individuals to use, right? Some of them give you an address which they picked up from somewhere, which is one of the best examples of hallucinations. Definitely, there is some hallucination there that they have just built that up, picking up the data from here and there, very probably from blacklisted URLs, and no one is controlling. But there are some models, there are some tools which are trained very well, which do not contain the data, and which just gives an alert to the user when something wrong is going on. And there, if you are using that solution, that AI solution, which is responsible, that will automatically say that I'm not going to give an answer to this question. Let me move it to the corporate level. One of the largest IT services, IT software and cloud vendors, with the appearance of AI in our world, started to apply their AI assistant in recruitment, HR recruitment. So they were feeding the AI assistant, virtual assistant, 100 CVs and asking to save time. The whole idea is saving time, right? To the managers, to the recruiters, they were asking, these are the criteria for this job role. Give me the top 10 CVs. So instead of our personnel going through 100 CVs, let them go through only 10 CVs, 10 best. Just select the 10 best and we will take it from there. After a few months of doing the recruitment process with the guidance that they get from the AI assistant, they realized something weird. All of the CVs that were selected as top 10 for any role was the CV of a man. Definitely no CV of any woman was presented. And so anyone in this room might have been the victim of this situation, by the way, at that time. I'm not going to expose the name of the IT vendor here, but that was later on the news. Even if you search online, you will find out about it. What happened is that the data that was used for the AI engine was the data of the company. And very unfortunately, in the past and still, IT is a man-dominated industry. So the AI engine was checking the actual database of the company, was saying, the majority of the people are men, the majority of the leaders are men, and automatically eliminating the CVs which had a picture of a woman, photo of a woman, or anything like the Girl Scout leader, or anyone who put something like participated in the Women of MENA in Technology events. So all of those CVs were being eliminated. This went on months and months. And there comes another example of why AI should be responsible. And these are some simple examples. I can go on and on, but I hope this gives a very simple answer to why this needs to be controlled and the impacts of it to the world, not only at enterprise level, but to the world.
Yeah, and I think this is now why it's very important. It's basically bringing kind of tangible examples, because sometimes the problem with this, when we talk about responsible AI or the risk of AI, is that sometimes it feels vague, or it might happen to somebody else, or it won't affect us. But I think those examples definitely bring it to life in terms of actually this is already here, and we need to all care about it and make sure that we're doing the right thing for it. Although, I didn't think that people just being in the middle of nowhere looking for Rihanna would be one of the serious risks out of AI, but now I stand corrected. Sorry, Mahtab, go for it.
No, can I add something to that?
Yeah, go for it.
So I understand the kind of business strategy and policy approach that's being taken by a lot of companies. But I'd like to put an engineer hat on this topic, or a product manager hat on, and ask why do you even need AI? Because the first thing we do as product managers or as founders or startup founders, we say, okay, well, what's the problem we're trying to solve? And what's the path of least resistance to solving that problem? Is it a Google spreadsheet? Is it an email? Or do you really need AI? Because there are other implications in actually developing that solution. The biggest one being that there are these massive server farms that are heating up the planet. That's one aspect of it. There's ridiculous costs of GPU, chip making, for processing a ton of data to produce a result that maybe could have been done by filling out a form. The way we're approaching it with myself and with Flawless is we're looking at what is happening in the creative industry. Where are the areas where the studios as well as some of the artists are stuck, where AI could actually unblock them? And then we look at, okay, well, is the cost-benefit trade-off, is it worth it? And along with what's going to happen to the wide industry and the ethical side of it, is it actually worth doing this or not? Yeah.
I might chime in for a minute because I think that's exactly right. And in fact, there is the question of, whenever you're thinking about using any technology, you should start with what challenge you're meeting. What is my challenge, and do I even need technology? And then is technology an answer? And then what is that technology? Is one of the technologies under the umbrella of this nebulous term, artificial intelligence, fit? And then you move in that direction, right? If once you've done that, then I totally agree with what Ebru was saying in terms of, thinking about the wider question of whether you're putting AI first or you're sprinkling a bit of AI dust on top of your existing solution set, right? And there's lots of really interesting examples about kind of AI dust being sprinkled versus being an AI first company or putting an AI tool where it makes sense throughout your end-to-end operating model, right? But just a point on, rather than on the adoption of AI technologies, just on responsible AI. For me, there is no alternative. So I don't know, I think it's ridiculous to call it responsible AI because there's somebody somewhere down the hall having an irresponsible AI conference. If you want, you should just go over and have a little chat over there. There isn't anything but responsible AI. So this should be embedded from the outset. So, we're both engineers. I didn't take an ethics course. It should be part of, your classes and your university career and everything. It should be part of how we kind of come into this place, which is asking ourselves, is this really a problem that I'm solving? Because engineers love to solve problems. Sometimes they solve problems because they see it themselves. So I'll give you a very funny example of some Google engineers who they have now had generative AI as part of Google Meets. You can turn it on and off. Well, you can create a little avatar of yourself to attend a meeting that you can't go to. And the GenAI does all sorts of things like take notes and send you a summary. It can send you the actions. These are all really useful, beneficial things. But basically, the avatar can now go in your place. So imagine, if you will, my avatar going to a meeting with Ebru's avatar, taking notes, and then sending us their actions while we sit on a beach, drinking Mai Tais. Well, this is great. And you can imagine as an engineer sitting in a room going, what really takes up all my time? These damn meetings. If I could just have my avatar go to the meeting in my place. But that is solving a problem without actually understanding what the challenge and the problem is, right? And adding a solution like AI to a problem that doesn't need it, right? There are other ways to solve meeting problems, right? And not go, we just not go to them. That's also a nice way. Just ignore, la la la. But I think that the key is, and one of the things we're trying to do in responsible AI is to kind of bring these different pieces of the puzzle together, right? So rather than having academics sit in a room by themselves thinking about what problems, what is the research question that we should solve, engineers sitting and getting paid very well, much better than the academics, by the way, in another room thinking about what problems they should solve, and then business people not having either access to either of those and just, you know, still using pencil and paper to solve their problems. We bring them all together, right? And we say, right, so what are the challenges? What are the manifestation of these challenges into like actual fundamental research questions that academics can go off and do while supporting the actual industry who's having these? And then what is the practical application of these research, right? How do we practically put that research into place? And so that's the work that we're doing. And that's where responsibility sits at the core of this, right? Because you have the solution owners and the challenge owners together with the people who have the money, right? And you kind of come up with what the answer to those kind of bigger kind of questions are. And the reason we use the word responsibility, right, is so that everybody opts in, right? Because if you use ethics or if you use safety or you use security, various people go, yeah, well, that's those people will handle that. Or if it's diversity, they're like, oh, those two girls that sit in that room upstairs, they're dealing with diversity for the whole company. And so people opt out of, right? It's true, right? It's funny because it's true, because we deal with diversity by putting two people in a room and going, right, we're going to get on with the real work. You guys sort out the diversity issue, right? So like the reason we use the word responsibility is so everyone opts in, and because we need all of these different people with different backgrounds, different experiences, different socioeconomic understanding, different cultural, you know, upbringings, all of this stuff to contribute to what the answer to the world challenges are. And that's why responsibility is important, and that's the power that these technologies hold for us as humans, right? Is that they can start to answer some of these bigger questions that we have. Obviously, they'll make us more productive in the meantime, and we'll make more money. That's great, but hopefully, it'll start to answer some of these bigger questions. One of which will be, how do we make sure we use these technologies without actually burning up the entire world while doing it?
I'm loving this discussion, and I think the point that we're converging on is that part of responsible AI is actually knowing when not apply AI, right? And I think that's going to be something that we'll need to grapple with, because it is a cool thing and that everyone wants to do in their day-to-day job. But it sounds.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to say that there's almost a bit of a disconnect between what's in the news and what's actually being used.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you know, the thing that summarizes your email, or the thing that helps you scan a document so that you don't have to do the point-by-point scanning, or you know, the thing that does your spell check. Those are the really useful AI tools that everyone uses, and they don't even think about it. But they don't really make the news, and they don't create controversy because they're built to be useful for day-to-day kind of boring tasks.
Well, scientists often say what's unfair is that everything we figure out, you know, how to do well, is not called AI anymore. It just is referred to by its application name. And all the unanswered questions and the things we don't yet know how to do, that's the AI, right? That's the So I talk about this generally by holding up my phone and saying, this is your pocket AI. Everybody has one. You use it all the time. Nothing to fear, right? Except I got told, don't put your pocket AI next to the microphone. So it's in my bag.
Yeah, I mean, it seems that now people are just talking about GenAI specifically as AI, because that's a new thing. But yeah, AI has been around for quite a while. Great. So then we're going to take a slightly different angle now, and this one is going to be with you, Sana, to begin with. From the work that you've been doing with advising governments and helping set up government strategy when it comes to AI, it's a bit of a two-pronged question. Do you think that now, with AI getting into the mainstream, this topic is getting enough attention from the people that matter, from policymakers, from heads of industries, and so on. And what do they need to do to balance that, what we started talking about already, the responsibility versus innovation?
Yeah, such a good question. So you're absolutely right. AI has been around for a long time. So it was actually coined by Marvin Minsky in the 50s. In fact, there was a group of men in a university, and they thought they'd sort this whole thing out over the summer holidays. So it didn't happen. It's still going on. But it's been around for a long time. It has been now in the mainstream over the last kind of year and a half because of ChatGPT, and especially because of the way it's set up, kind of like WhatsApp. I type into an empty screen and then it responds back to me. So it's an easy and intuitive way for people to use a tool, which is, by the way, also why everybody loves iPhones, right? Because it's easy to use. So the interaction with it has removed the need to be technically savvy, right? Which means everybody's kind of gotten a chance to play with it. If you haven't gotten a chance to play with it, do play with it, because it is insanely fun and really, really interesting to kind of play and understand what the hype is all about, and what the limitations are. I won't call them hallucinations. They're mistakes. They're problems. It is, but the fact that these things now are in the mainstream means that politicians are listening, and they're caring a lot more around the governance side of things. They have been kind of in the background worrying about AI for a lot longer than that, mostly around we're going to fall behind from the economic uptick that AI is going to bring us, right? We were promised trillions in kind of world GDP uptick. And so there's been a lot of focus on investment into compute and investment into R&D and things like that from governments for a long time. What they haven't been really concentrating on is the kind of ethics and governance, which is now absolutely in the mainstream. So last year, the UK had the first safety summit, AI safety summit, which they brought a lot of different country leaders together here to Bletchley Park, which is the home of kind of code breaking in the UK. And they signed a treaty or an agreement, the Bletchley Agreement, to work together on AI safety. And they've built AI safety institutes and so on. So safety for me and for many others is one part of the responsibility agenda. And it's important, but it is by no means the only thing we should be looking at. Responsibility. There is things that are happening today in terms of deep fakes and fake news and various things like that that are very much a part of something that needs to be addressed now from a legislatory perspective. So from a governance perspective, the fact that the world leaders are listening means that responsibility is now kind of the front and center of the conversation. So it's a massive win for all of us humans, right? That now the world leaders are thinking more holistically about this. So the second part of your question about, what do they need to do? What they need to do is not listen to one group of people, right? What world leaders need to do is to listen to the conversation from all of the different dimensions that it happens in. So not just there's a friend of ours, one of my colleagues who runs a company called Careful Industries, Promising Trouble. She's the co-founder, or in fact, I think she's the founder. And she has a slogan that says, let's create AI that works for 8 billion people, not for 8 billionaires. And that is what we need now. We need world leaders to listen to not just the 8 billionaires who have money to shout really loudly, but to also the academics and to civil society and to the companies who are grappling with adoption of these technologies, and listen to all of these voices in order to be able to create the policy that's required to put the guardrails in place to use these technologies in a way that really work for their people. And only when they're able to do that will societies adopt and industry feel more comfortable to adopt these technologies, knowing that they're within the policy remit that's been set for them. So listen as widely as you can.
If I may add here, I mean, your question was specific to the government part, right? Public. And you explained, as you have had experience in that area, you have explained well what the governments are doing, UK or the larger audience. But this cannot only be the responsibility of the governments, right? We need to look at the things from a holistic approach. This is the responsibility of governments, yes, but this is the responsibility of the enterprises who are using AI. This is the responsibility of the vendors who are providing models. That's really important. And when I say models, the whole AI discussion, some of you might be familiar with it, some of you not. That's why I just need to mention that the whole AI discussion is built on top of models. You might have heard the word LLMs, large language models, but there are also small language models. It differs from vendor to vendor. But there comes the responsibility. So while enterprises are using AI, they need to be sure about the output, that the output doesn't have bias, doesn't have hallucination. And this is not only for the sake of looking nice, but overall, they also need to think about the PR challenges. The damage that they can make, I have already given some examples of the damage that they can make when we started this conversation, but also damage that can make to the public, to us, but also their PR challenges, right? Once your name is associated with an output that is generating more hate in the world, that is causing more diversity, that is creating more bias, that is disrupting the ethics, there is no trustability there. So as the enterprise and as the vendor who is providing that model, you should be sure that the model you are using should be trustable, and trust comes from transparency. If a vendor is able to provide the data which is used to create the model, that's the ideal one. So I'm not just saying this for IBM, because in IBM, we published a paper which showed the data. And we are using the world's largest data sets, because the data is coming from the 19 different labs from the world that we have. And interestingly, 3/4 of the data that we collected was eliminated to create our models. Because half of the data, this is really significant, right? Half of the data that we collected first contained elements of hate, contained elements of data that's coming from blacklisted URLs. So this is huge. We are talking about 50%. 1 of every 2 sentences that is around is just contradicting with responsibility elements, is not providing trust. That's why we cannot only leave this into the hands of governments. This should be the responsibility of everyone who is either using or who is either generating the models for enterprise and governments to use data and to make most out of AI. Right?
Very good point. It's like if you're going to benefit from it as well, like that comes as a part of the deal, right? You have to be responsible for what you're putting out there. That's a very good point.
And you know, in the beginning, in fact, it was like that. You asked about the challenges in implementing AI. In the beginning, everyone was thinking that implementing AI was related with lack of skills. And in fact, this has data behind it. IBM runs an AI adoption index every year with more than 500 companies across the globe. And the latest index, which was published last year, showed that there are 3 key inhibitors. That's what C-level thinks: lack of skills, data complexity, and cost. And interestingly, when you think about the cost element of it, cost is not only the GPUs you are burning, where she very well explained it in the beginning. Of course, the GPU and how much AI and you are trying to adopt using large language models, even though you want to solve a little problem, you just go ahead and burn all of the electricity and have negative impacts on the sustainable part of the equation. But also, the cost here is the ethical cost to you, that the damage you are giving out, right? And also the damage you are making to your reputation.
Can I ask something, if you're allowed to say, within IBM, do vendors have to go through some sort of certification for them to be able to work with IBM?
Good question, because IBM work with vendors as well as clients, and there are institutions at the moment. Any vendor who wants to participate can go and participate in that, but then you need to take the measures. You cannot just go and not check your data. So IBM is definitely, when, for example, very recently, EU AI Act was announced, IBM just declared the support, and by publishing the data behind that's used to train the models and build the models, it already showed. At the moment, there are 2 or 3 institutions globally. Any vendor, it is the choice of the vendor to go and be part of it. So that's also another indicator, in fact, when you are going and choosing the vendor whose model you are going to use.
Yeah.
But I guess this is about creating that ecosystem where you have like that trust. And I think that's going to be, now it feels very new, but it's going to have to come very quickly for people to trust, even as a customer of these services. Can I trust using it? Do I open myself to legal issues or any future risks by just using something that I might not think at the time? So definitely a good point. I just wanted to, one point I'm thinking, and this is where you came from earlier, Mahtab, around kind of you touch on kind of the challenges from a creative industry point of view. I guess from your side and seeing that, being close to that industry, first, how do you see that changing in the world of AI? And I guess what are the specific challenges that might apply in that industry versus, in a corporate environment or even in government?
I guess the thing that makes media challenging but also really exciting is that it's always in the spotlight. So whatever happens, a post goes viral, or a mistake in a movie that goes viral, or a fake video of somebody saying something that they never said, it just gets a lot of attention, and it gets a lot of opinions from a lot of different people, whether or not they have any expertise in the field or not. So that's one challenge of it. So it kind of heightens a lot of the conversations, regardless of whether those are relevant or not. But I think on the sort of the flip side of that is that media is also very powerful, because it's the medium of storytelling. So, it's much easier. Stories are much more approachable, much easier to understand than papers or books of law and regulation. For the average person, it's much easier to understand something through a story. And then the other side of it is entertainment. That's how those are the things that create excitement in our day-to-day lives, and hence a lot of the controversy around them. So when, for example, a new technology comes in and it helps the storytelling without, without making anyone uncomfortable, then everyone loves it. They don't even realize it's AI or VFX or or it's a stunt person who's not the real actor who's doing that backflip on top of a mountain. They don't even realize that's there, because it's so embedded into the story that you're just watching a movie. You don't realize what's happening behind the scene. And I think the same would apply to any AI tools that we're using. But the challenge is, building tools that make those things possible without allowing misuse. And I think that's when the responsibility comes in, because these tools are extremely powerful. So if you can replace one person with another very easily, then whoever is creating fake news could also easily do that. And they would probably do it on hundreds and thousands of videos when you just wanted to do, your one movie that you were interested in. And so that's kind of the real challenge, is how do you allow for that sort of creative expansion without allowing misuse?
And that's a great point, because I guess all of these things people could do before,
yeah.
But now the barrier is so much lower. Like, you don't need much skill to actually create a deepfake.
You don't need any skills. You just, it's very easy. You just need malintent, and you can do it. So that's what some of the interesting technologies that have started to come in, for example, fingerprinting, watermarking. DeepMind allows, they developed a technology that you can tell if an image has been AI generated. And so there's technologies being built to kind of counter that. And those will become embedded into sort of our everyday tools and processes over time. But right now, it is still very much a gray zone. We can kind of tell when a video is fake because it has too many teeth, or because the hand has 6 fingers, but that's going to improve within 3 months, I would say. So it moves very fast. And I guess the kind of opinion that I have personally is that it's going to be harder and harder to distinguish the output. And so what we would then have to go with is the reputation of that company, the brand that they have, their personal story. Do they want to be responsible for creating something that's going to make the world a worse place? Do they want to take that on? And I feel like the direction will go further and further in that aspect. The same way that a film studio like Warner Brothers, they wouldn't create pornography not because they can't, but it's just because it's not in their interest, because they're a reputable, trusted company. And I think the same would apply to AI. If you are a reputed, trusted company that creates media on a mass scale and wins awards and is well known and loved, you probably wouldn't want to do it because it's just not worth the risk.
It's going to be a very interesting world we're going to be living in.
Yeah.
We already do. It's going to be nice. I was going to say, yeah, I have more questions, but I think we want to open it to the floor to see if anyone has questions for our panel.